Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. General Hospital Wednesday, September 18 recap. Hey, there is Alexis Cellmate. Rick's altered lab results clue. General Hospital, GEH. Spoilers recap for Wednesday, September 18. Reveals that Natalia Ramirez, Hiva LaRue, tried to distract Sonny Corinthos, Maurice Bernard, with a bottle of bubbly and some good news about deception. But he was worried about Alexis Davis, Nancy Lee Grahn, bail hearing. In the courtroom, Christina Corinthos Davis, Kate Mancy, was forced to settle down after a courtroom outburst. Judge Otis, Jim Hanna, stood by his decision. So Alexis was remanded to Pentonville after hugging Christina, Sam McCall, temporarily played by Lindsay Partley, and Molly Lansing Davis, Kristen Vaganos, one last time. Sam took Christina to GH afterward so she could get some professional help. Felicia Scorpio, Christina Wagner, listened to a distraught Christina and offered support along with all the hospital's resources. Once Sam called Sonny to offer updates on Alexis heading to Pentonville. Sonny wanted to get her out ASAP. Martin Gray, Michael E. Gray, eventually showed up at the penthouse after being summoned. Sonny hired Martin to defend Alexis and made it clear that he needed to do whatever it took to win. Back with Sam, she told a worried Donna Falconeri, Dominic Zamprogna, about her plan to put her expert diver skills to good use. Sam wanted to search the river for the dumped gun and hopefully prove Alexis' innocence. Meanwhile, Rick Hurst, delivered bad news to Heather Weber, Allie Mills in the prison visiting area. Heather's lab results showed the difference in cobalt levels was negligible after her surgery, so Rick suggested the faulty kit replacement wasn't the reason she committed her crimes. Heather was baffled and upset over her last chance at a family slipping away, but an apologetic Rick didn't see how the case could move forward now. Rick met up with Elizabeth Baldwin, Rebecca Herbst, at the hospital, where he admitted he was sticking around PC for Molly despite Heather's case falling through. Liz also found out about Alexis being remanded to Pentonville and was alarmed over that shocker. Later, Rick showed Elizabeth a second set of lab results from Heather that were done at an outside lab. There was a major discrepancy since the other lab showed a substantial difference in the before and after cobalt levels, meaning Heather's levels were now lower than expected. Liz thought the test should be run again since something was obviously wrong here. Our predictions point to Portia Robinson, Rook Care, messing with the results to keep Heather locked up, so Rick may follow the trail to her soon. Back with Alexis, she was unsure of which bunk to take since she hadn't met her cellmate yet. Alexis wasn't pleased when Heather was escorted back to the same cell, but Heather seemed tickled pink. General Hospital spoilers say Heather will no doubt pester Alexis while they're locked up together, so don't miss the fun scenes ahead. The hospital's usual hum of tension was palpable as Alexis Davis sat uneasily in her cell, her eyes darting to the iron bars, heart pounding with the knowledge that someone new would be joining her today. It wasn't just anyone, it was Heather Weber. Alexis had heard the rumors. The infamous manipulator and dangerous mental patient was being transferred into her cell, and the thought of it twisted her gut. She had faced dangerous people before, but this felt different. Heather was a master of manipulation, a ticking time bomb of unpredictability. Alexis tried to steel herself, keeping her back straight and her chin high, but the moment Heather strolled in with a casual, unsettling smile, Alexis felt a wave of unease ripple through her. Room service at last, Heather said with a slight grin, her eyes gleaming with a mix of amusement and menace. Alexis raised her brows. Trust me, this is no 5-star stay. Heather gave a small chuckle, plopping down on the lower bunk as though she owned the place. We'll see about that. Maxie's discovery. Meanwhile, across town at the Metro Court, Maxie Jones found herself pacing back and forth in her office, deep in thought. Something wasn't sitting right with her. Her friend Rick Lansing had been acting strange lately, distant, secretive, and today, while cleaning up after a mishap with a client's file, she stumbled upon something disturbing. Hidden beneath a pile of paperwork, she found a copy of lab results that had clearly been altered. Maxie frowned as she scanned the report. It didn't take a genius to realize something was off. The dates didn't match, and certain test results had been doctored. It was a serious violation, and her gut screamed that Rick was involved somehow. But why would Rick alter lab results? And whose tests were these? She wasn't one to jump to conclusions, but there was no denying that something shady was happening. "I have to talk to Spinelli about this," Maxie muttered to herself, grabbing her phone. If anyone could dig deeper into this, it was Spinelli. Elizabeth and Finn's clue. At General Hospital, Dr. Hamilton Finn and Elizabeth Weber found themselves knee-deep in a mystery of their own. Elizabeth, who had been trying to balance her hectic life at the hospital with her growing suspicions about Rick, couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong with the way Rick had handled a recent case. Earlier that morning, Elizabeth had noticed discrepancies in a patient's blood work, but when she questioned Rick about it, he brushed her off. His reaction was too defensive, too quick to deflect. Elizabeth wasn't one to let things slide easily. She trusted her instincts, and they were screaming at her that something sinister was afoot. Determined to get to the bottom of it, she approached Finn, who had a knack for digging into complex medical cases. Together, they began to comb through the hospital's records, hoping to find a connection between Rick and the altered lab results Maxie had discovered. "This doesn't make sense," Finn murmured, frowning at the data in front of him. "There's a clear pattern here. Blood samples were switched and test results were manipulated. But why?" Elizabeth sighed, running a hand through her hair. "Whatever Rick's hiding, it's big. He's risking everything by doing this. But the question is, what's the end game?" Finn nodded. "And who else is involved?" Rick's increasing paranoia. Back in his office, Rick Lansing was losing his grip. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he paced the floor, muttering under his breath. Everything was falling apart. The pressure of keeping his secrets hidden was becoming unbearable, and now with Maxie, Elizabeth, and Finn sniffing around, it was only a matter of time before they uncovered the truth. He thought he had covered his tracks well, but paranoia was creeping in. He could feel the walls closing in on him. The altered lab results were the tip of the iceberg. If anyone found out what else he had done, how deep the deception went, his career, his freedom, and maybe even his life would be at risk. "Damn it," Rick whispered, clenching his fists. He had to act fast. He couldn't let anyone connect the dots. Not Maxie, not Elizabeth, not Finn. Rick reached for his phone, dialing a number he hadn't used in months. "It's me," he said when the person on the other end picked up. "We need to meet. Now." Alexis and Heather's strange bond. As the day dragged on at Pentonville, Alexis found herself in the most bizarre situation she could have imagined, sitting across from Heather Weber, sharing a conversation that, against all odds, wasn't entirely uncomfortable. Heather, for all her madness, had a sharp mind, and there was a strange, disarming honesty about her. "So, Alexis," Heather drawled, leaning back on her bunk, "you ever wonder why you end up in places like this?" Alexis blinked, caught off guard by the question. "You mean jail?" Heather gave a sly smile. "I mean, yeah, but I also mean life. Fate. Ever think about how certain choices lead us down paths we never expected?" Alexis scoffed, crossing her arms. "More than you know." Heather's eyes sparkled. "You're a fighter. Always have been. But fighting? It doesn't always lead to freedom, does it? Sometimes it just puts you in a different kind of cage." Alexis didn't know what to make of Heather's cryptic words, but they struck a chord somewhere deep inside her. She had spent her life fighting for justice, for her family, for her own survival. But had it ever really freed her, or was she just trading one battle for another? The web of lies unravels. Back at General Hospital, Elizabeth and Finn finally uncovered a critical clue, a patient whose test results had been altered just days before his mysterious disappearance. The connection was undeniable. Rick had been tampering with more than just lab reports. He had been covering up something far bigger. Maxie, after discussing her discovery with Spinelli, rushed to meet with Elizabeth and Finn. Together, they pieced together the puzzle, realizing that Rick's actions were tied to a larger conspiracy involving not just a hospital, but potentially dangerous outside forces. "This is bad," Elizabeth said, her voice laced with fear. "If we're right, people's lives are at stake." Maxie nodded, her expression grim, and Rick is in the middle of it. Heather's warning. As night fell, Alexis lay on her cot, staring at the ceiling, Heather's words echoing in her mind. She wasn't sure what to make of her new cellmate, but one thing was clear. Heather knew things. She was dangerous, yes, but there was something else lurking beneath the surface. Something Alexis couldn't quite put her finger on. Before drifting off to sleep, Heather leaned over, her voice a whisper in the dark. "Be careful, Alexis. People around here, they're not always who they seem. You never know when someone might decide to change the rules of the game." Alexis shivered. In the quiet of the prison, those words felt like both a warning and a threat. The recap ends. As the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place, it became clear that the web of lies surrounding Rick Lansing was more dangerous than anyone had anticipated. Alexis, now facing an uncertain alliance with Heather Weber, was pulled deeper into the tangled mess. What secrets was Rick hiding, and how far would he go to protect them?